Some of you are finding ratio a little bit tricky to get your head around, so I thought I'd make a quick video just explaining the basic concept so you've got an idea of how it relates to everyday life. Now, this recipe is my favourite chocolate cake recipe. It was my granny's recipe, and it's a big one that we use in our family. Now, recipes are all about ratio. It's comparing one thing with another. So if you're going to make one recipe, one cake's worth of this recipe, I would need 5 ounces of flour, I'd need 3 ounces of drinking chocolate, I would need 3 eggs, I'd need 6 ounces of butter and half a teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda. Now that's for one cake, which sort of feeds about 10 people, I suppose. But what if I wanted to make a bigger cake or wanted to make 2 cakes? What would I need to do? I've got to keep the ratio the same all the way through because otherwise the cake wouldn't work. So if I'm going to make 2 cakes, I would need to double everything up. So if 2 cakes, I would need 10 ounces of flour, not 5. Now, I can't just chuck in the same 3 ounces of drinking chocolate because then it wouldn't be a very chocolatey cake anymore. So I've still got to double that up. So I would need 6 ounces of drinking chocolate. I would need 6 eggs. I would need 12 ounces of margarine or butter. And I would need 1 teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda. Now you can see I've kept the ratio the same. There's still a ratio between, if you have a look at the flour to the drinking chocolate, for example, the ratio is 5, my pen stopped working, to 3. So for every 5 ounces of self-raising flour, I need 3 ounces of drinking chocolate. If I look here, I've got 10 to 6 in my ratio of flour to drinking chocolate. But remember what we did with fractions, where we simplify things. What can I do? I can divide 10 by 2, and that gets me to 5. And I can divide 6 by 2, and that gets me to 3. So you can see my ratio between the two has stayed the same. Ratio is all about comparing one thing with another. Now, when we're cooking, it's really important that we keep these ratios the same so that the recipe still works, whether it's getting bigger or whether it's getting smaller. So I used a scale factor. I scaled it up by 2 times. Okay, so that's when we're thinking about cooking. Now, for some of the problems that we have had on the maths that we've been talking about this week, we've actually looked at shape and we've talked about something called scale factors. Now, scale factors just tell you how many times bigger or smaller something is. So if I'm looking at this, and let's say that that is 2 centimetres and that is 3 centimetres. Okay. If I use a scale factor of 2, so I'm going to put SF2, I could say that this one, if it was a scale factor of 2, everything is 2 times bigger. So 2 times 2 would give me 4. And this one, 2 times 3, would give me 6. So scale factors just tell you how much larger or how much smaller something is than the original. Now, I could have gone backwards, okay? I could have started with, if we call this B and we call that A, I could have started with the shape B and said, okay, it's been reduced by a scale factor from B to A of 2, okay? So it works both ways. What's key is the vocabulary. So you would have reduced if it's getting smaller, and enlarged. Oops, pen's not working again. If it's getting larger or bigger. Ratio really isn't anything to worry about. We use ratio all the time without realising that we're doing it. But if we go back to the cookery recipe and think about what actually happened then, we're just making sure that everything stays in the same proportions that it was in before. And if we're changing the recipe slightly to get more cake or more things that we can eat, because obviously that's important at the moment, we need to be thinking about keeping everything in the same ratio so that the recipe still works. You're doing this all the time, every day. It's all about being fair. Okay, so hopefully that's helped a little bit. It would be impossible to actually go through everything to do with ratio, but these are the key ways of looking at it. We're looking at things where we use recipes or proportions of one thing to another, and where we use scale factors when we're being told to increase or decrease something. Hopefully that has helped.